So I'm wondering who's gonna join in because they're jumping Joey right now. Joey's getting jumped. You know when someone tries to stand and then you got everyone, man, shut up. So my question is, if Joey doesn't come back with a response, I think he's gonna get clowned like this, which is cool. You know what I mean? Fine, he couldn't hang with West Coast artists, but who? Cardi B? Who's gonna respond from New York? We don't have it like that no more. It would be funny if Cardi B comes out of nowhere and literally just starts standing tall and be like, yo, I got Joey's back. He goes, we raise Pac, Dre, and Nip. That's a heavenly trinity. They talking reckless. That's a death wish signed in blood. Woo, bitch, this LA County, we baptize goofies in the mud. If New York doesn't respond, they in trouble. But if they respond, they also in trouble. Either Joey's gonna have to just sit this one out. He's gonna either have to get active or someone else from New York's gotta jump in. It must be the bridge that's making these dudes showboat. First week sales mean nothing to the flow goat. That line is fire. And in the video, I just want to make sure people saw that we got the Manhattan Bridge. We got the Brooklyn Bridge in there. We got shots in Brooklyn looking towards Manhattan. We got him sitting on a rooftop in Brooklyn. We got the Dumbo shot, which is in Brooklyn. He has the photo in the background from Brooklyn. Are we calling this round one? I think it's round one because I'm from the NY area. And I'll say if New York doesn't respond, which I don't know if it should necessarily, but if New York decides not to respond, bro, it's clown. I don't know, for the next decade, we ain't getting nothing. Joey Bada starts this beef. I would not necessarily call it a beef. Maybe let's just call it, I don't know, like a light little jab. Joey Bada, the ruler's back. It was garbage. I'm not gonna lie. Being even from the NY area, it just wasn't good. It's not a shot at Joey Bada because Joey Bada, he's good. But this is not him. I don't really know where it's coming from. Fun. Like, I know people want to say that, you know, this is like just for fun, hip hop fun. I don't think rap beefs are fun. Now, if we're just trying to turn this into a lyrical fun battle, that's cool. We could do that. But it seems like the way West Coast is responding, rightfully so, they're not taking it that way. Because if you want to make this a lyrical battle, I don't know. Let's see how this plays out. So again, Joey Bada is not trash, but the song was garbage. And the fact that he was on Ab-Soul's track, I do agree with Ray Vaughn here. You know what I mean? Like, you're here. Why are you saying too much West Coast D-licking? And I mean, standing in front of a rural home with red pants and a scarf, I don't think it's the flex. And then the funny thing is, Joey Bada is not even shooting it in Brooklyn. Ironically, and I think this is a really strong shot from Daylyt. Daylyt's video was actually in Brooklyn. I'm pretty sure he shot it in Brooklyn, and he's showing shots of Brooklyn. Brooklyn's really well known in the New York area. So, I mean, these shots I think are strong. If Joey Bada wanted this to be lighthearted, but no West Coast diss, I don't really know, because I don't really see that. Daylyt went to Brooklyn. He took shots of Brooklyn. He stood on Brooklyn corners, I believe. I mean, he has the Brooklyn Bridge in the video. Daylyt, they not messing around over there. The next thing is, like, I don't think Joey right now speaks for NY. Joey Bada is definitely one of the illest lyricists out of the New York area, but he doesn't have that limelight. And that's okay too. I'm not saying he has to have that limelight in a way, but I don't think he speaks for New York about LA. And I don't know if I'm going to be riding for New York if we're going to be dissing Kendrick and the West Coast. I mean, unless this just becomes some fun lyrical battle, I'm here for it. But, you know, when it comes to New York, who's actually going to clap back? Either Joey Bada needs to come with a next response with some more ill bars and up the ante, because that first flex isn't it? Or someone else has to join in from New York. I don't know who. It's true that New York just isn't there. Nah, New York's run was definitely more than 10 minutes. Like, I'll take, like, if we're talking from 80s to 90s, even in 2000s, I mean, New York artists were really running hip hop. Now, definitely it's gone to different coasts, 100%. Chicago, Florida, just the South in general, the West Coast. So it's really moved around. And New York for sure is not on top of the game right now. So I'm wondering who's going to join in on this Joey Bada, because they're jumping Joey right now. Joey's getting jumped. If Joey doesn't come back with a response, I think he's gonna get clowned like this, which is cool. You know what I mean? Fine, he couldn't hang with West Coast artists. Fine, pull back. But who? Lil TJ? ASAP Rocky? Cardi B? Who's gonna respond from New York? We don't have it like that no more. That's facts. That's 100% true. The only way I think this gets active is if New York drill rappers get involved. That could be, which we're trying to get drill to go away. But if New York drill gets involved right now, because that's kind of like what the scene is in a way, it could get ugly. You know, West Coast got it, but New York is not something to play with when it comes to drill. So we'll see. And I don't want it to get that way. You know what I mean? I don't want it to get that dark and ugly. Let's keep it lyrical. So let's see who's gonna respond, but who's lyrical? ASAP Rocky. might be the only one. I doubt he's trying to get involved with something like that. That's my take. I've always said I didn't like the call out of the West Coast. We don't want to call out West Coast. Anybody grew up on hip hop, we know what the West Coast is and what it's doing to hip hop. And now it being on top because of Kendrick's reign. I mean, Drake tried to call out the West Coast from Canada, which was the worst move. So I didn't like Joey Badass calling the West Coast particularly. When I was younger, you know, I lived through the Pac era and really when it was really East versus West. And it was kind of ugly. You know, we had people pass Pac, Biggie. So this is not something we want to see, but that was premised, like that was a real beef. And I know I rode with Pac because Pac to me was just better. I mean, granted, I was much younger then, so I didn't really care. I mean, Pac's gonna say F East Coast, F New York. I'm fine with that as a youngin because, you know, who cares? But right now, you know, I don't want to see New York fully get clowned. But two people coming at you, Daylyt Hiyu and Ray Vaughn Crash Out Heritage? Man, I don't know. Which song is better? Obviously, it's not Joey Badass's song, 100%. But Daylyt Hiyu, I hope I'm saying that right, y'all, or Crash Out Heritage. Now, my community seems to think that Crash Out Heritage was the best one, just because he was more amped up and direct. I beg to differ on this a little bit. The vibes there were strong in Ray Vaughn's. I'm with that. But was it better than Daylyt's? It depends on what kind you want to rock with. I think Daylyt was treading carefully, rightfully so. I think he did it with respect. But I think what people are missing is that I don't know if he fully did it respectfully. I mean, I think there was this low-key sub, a strong sub to Brooklyn from Daylyt's song. Might have been stronger than Ray Vaughn's song. Even lyrically, I know people giving it to Ray Vaughn. I'm giving it to that. Crash Out Heritage was dope. But was it better than Daylyt's? Because see, Daylyt, I think, well, maybe, I don't know if people who are not from New York realize the imagery. I'm sure they do, but the imagery that was in the video, showing the Manhattan Bridge and the Brooklyn Bridge, shooting it in Brooklyn, there was some bird's eye view shots of Dumbo, Brooklyn. You know, definitely, I mean, it's kind of like a gentrified area right now, but, you know, shots of Brooklyn, I believe when Daylyt was standing on the Brooklyn corner, and I think there were shots where Daylyt was rapping on a rooftop, and that looked like he was in Brooklyn. And the thing is, what people maybe don't realize is the shots are actually towards Manhattan from Brooklyn. So it's actually in Brooklyn aiming towards Manhattan because you just crossed the bridge and from Brooklyn to Manhattan, you know? So actually it was shot in Brooklyn. So that's even more interesting. Ray Vaughn shot it in LA, I believe. And, you know, my prayers goes out to everything going on with the wildfires out there in Cali. But, you know, but the voice and the vocals, I think, were more active than Daylyt's. Some of the bars in Daylyt, I think, were dope. I think he had a call out to Tupac's "I'm from the city where the skinny dudes die." I think he said something like that a few times. He said, "I'm from the era where the scary dudes sit back, but this rap, so who controlling me?" Right? So he's saying, listen, don't think I'm not the guy. I'm the guy. You know, Daylight's the person. I might jump in this and I might get way more active than what you see me. Like, then he goes, "My clock set for Western time, but I'm in Brooklyn with the best of the dime." I like this play. Now, some people might say Daylyt was treading carefully, but you got to do that. See, that's the mistake I think Drake did, is that he tried to go at Kendrick, kind of took LA and West Coast down with him. So here, I think this is a better response from Daylyt. Then he goes, "I made a lot of dudes rest in the city. I left my mind there. They should put a statue of me in Times Square." Dope bar, because it kind of sounds like I put a lot of people to rest. I think lyrically he means, I left everything over there, but they should put a statue of me in Times Square. Now we getting a little scary. We getting a little scary. My thing is, once you start bringing up symbolic things of a place, the Manhattan Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, Times Square, Statue of Liberty, I think now you're starting to get on territory where this could get a little ugly. Then he goes, "You got to go east to tackle the beast." I went east to actually feast and came back with 800K in them black bags. So he's trying to say, listen, I made money off this, all right? So I'm bigger than what you think. This is a big flex, him showing J. Cole in the video. Then he goes, "Shots to NY, all that you've done to them dudes over the bridge. We tell them don't be dumb. To the uptown, which maybe ASAP Rocky, to the downtown, to the midtown. I love y'all, the West up, but I'll never dub y'all, for real." I don't know if Daylyt maybe fully understands the structure of NY, but it sounds like to me, because if he says uptown, downtown, midtown, that's kind of confusing. That could be mostly Manhattan. It sounds like he's shouting out all the other areas, maybe the Bronx. I don't know how Daylyt wants to refer to it, but the Bronx, Manhattan, you know, Harlem. But over the bridge, you could say that's Queens, that's Brooklyn. Queens, I don't think is being referenced here, but like he's saying, the dudes over the bridge in Brooklyn, be careful. But shout out to everybody else, Harlem and every other place. You boys had years to show you the best clip, I think he's saying. Now it's people in your class that they consider your peers. Saying you boys had years to show you the best clear. I don't think so. I think he's saying clip. I could be wrong. You boys had years to show you the best clip, because then he starts referencing weapons, I think, later. So it's like he's saying, Joey, you had years to shine. You ain't make it. We seen who the top of the game is now. You came out at this kind of at the same era. The people who came from your eras, they consider them more than you, who are your peers. That's how I read that line. It must be the bridge that's making these dudes showboat. First week sales mean nothing to the flow goat. That line is fire. I love that line. It must be the bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, that's making you all dudes showboat, water, bridge. First week sales, and then sales on a boat mean nothing to the flow goat. Flow again, water. That was a dope bar. Now, Daylyt is not messing around here lyrically. Then he goes, they said light could be the best if he had the numbers. Well, guess what, dude? I got the numbers. It's time for your Glock. And he goes on. So now we're talking about like popularity versus people who are just lyrically ill. Maybe he's saying, well, guess what? I do got the numbers. One, I think that's a good entendre. He's saying, I do got the numbers because I probably wrote for a lot of these people who their songs did really well. And then also, I think he's saying I got the numbers, meaning I got the connections. I got to connect on people because I'm the one people come to write dope, lyricism. It's time for your Glock. So now it's time for you. That's why I think the line previously refers to clip, because he's saying, let's see what you can do now. You Blizzard dudes will squash the tundra. Woo! That line is fierce. Because now we're treading on, he's stepping over the line a little bit here. So like now I feel like this needs a response. In my opinion, it's getting scary. That's a funny way to refer to New York, because if anybody, I agree that New York loves Cali. We always think about Cali. So many people out in this area love to want to go out to the West Coast. In the winter, it's just so cold out here. Then he goes, I'm from the city where the sun shines clearly. And I mean that. I hope you dudes hear me. If you don't, then it's a dearly departed off of some shit that y'all started. Woo! This line is one of the best lines in this whole little, what I call round one. I'm from the city where the sun shines. We all know, like, West Coast, we're just like, oh man, the weather is just so good out there where the sun shines, but also a metaphor for where we shine. Y'all don't shine. And I mean that. And he emphasizes it. He doubles down. I hope you dudes hear me. And here he doesn't say just you, Joey. He says dudes, like you all. I hope you all hear me. That's what I'm saying. Again, we treading on, I don't know, the line's getting a little cross here. So we got to see. I feel like New York's got to respond. If you don't, he goes, then it's a dearly departed. Like you'll be gone. You'll be outed. Dearly departed. Someone who passed off of some shit that y'all started. Now he flips it, right? That was smart, because he's like, you'll be gone because you all started, right? Now, when someone says you all started, it's like you want to ride for that person, right? But this was a dope bar. And this is the bar that I think needs a response. Then he goes, we cool, but the feeling's still eerie. That was good. Then he goes, be humble, not the end. Woo. Daylyt, I don't think people are seeing when I'm saying this is a true round one. I think this is going to get active and is going to have some action. Joey's got to respond. That's it. I think he's got to. We don't got to turn this into anything, No, I don't want to see no violence. This just got to be lyrically ill. I just don't think New York can do it, though. I'm going to be honest with you. I could be wrong. So either Joey's going to have to just sit this one out. He's going to either have to get active, or someone else from New York's got to jump in. But I don't know where that could go, because I don't know who from New York could do it, except some goofies. So again, like I said, in the video, I just want to make sure people saw that we got the Manhattan Bridge. We got the Brooklyn Bridge in there. We got shots in Brooklyn looking towards Manhattan. So there's a lot here, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's cold to me. That's crossing the line. In a way, rightfully so. I think Daylyt needs to. Ray Vaughn Crash Out Heritage. When I heard that, I was like, whoa, this is like doper than Daylyt's in a way, right? And people were trying to like kind of diss, like, yo, what's he crashing out about? Like this ain't it, but like, no, it is. I think some people really saw this as super active, strong vocals, way better, obviously, than what Joey Bada did. I don't necessarily think it's better than Daylyt. I think Daylyt lyrically was better. I think Ray Vaughn's Crash Out Heritage was more fierce, was more in your face. I liked it. He goes, what's with the sneak diss and taking shots at us? Then hide the Uzi? Because the only badass the world was recognizing is Boozy. I didn't fully get the Boozy shout out here. Random, but I'll give it to I still thought it was a dope rhyme. Then he goes, please don't get confused with shooting movies. We really shooting. Was on Soul album, so if you ask me, you look like a goofy. Again, rhymes aren't as lyrically complex as Daylyt's, but dope. I think maybe it's like a callback to you know, the film era, you know, New York does have, I mean, so does Cali though, you know, so I don't know what the specific reference is. The Juice starring Tupac when he was younger was shot in New York, but obviously we know Tupac's still a West Coast artist. Don't get confused with shooting movies. We really shooting. Now, again, I think we crossing the line just a little, just a little. Like I said, rightfully so. I'm not mad at the West Coast at all. I'm not mad at Daylyt. I'm not mad at any of these dudes. This was an appropriate response. But then he says you was on Soul Album. So Soul Album, the latest, I do think there's even on his intro song 9 Mile, I think there's Joey Bada's vocals. I think Joey Bada's also just retweeted Soul's tweet. Now he goes, I love this line. I treat Maul like orders from Tebow. He'll get box bad. Woo! The stray that Maul caught, I thought was funny. Maul needs to catch that stray. He really does. Because during the battle, he had so the riding he did for Drake was just abnormal. Just likening him to like a Temu, you know, them Temu and them Shein, I don't know, those boxes be bad, bro. And you can't even send that stuff back. This shit, you have to like tape it all up. Next line, the pop out did something for dudes who don't got dads. Watch us make the stock crash. Kids play with cap guns. Last year was Act 1. Woo! Ray Vaughn. This line is it. And these are the lines that I think we not crossing lines, but this is where New York's gotta respond. If you grow up in an urban environment, if you grow up from the hood, if you grow up from, you know, any sort of disenfranchised neighborhood, we don't got dads. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of us don't grow up with father figures. That's how I took it. I could be wrong. I took it like, y'all, the people who like are missing the father figure, living in the trenches, living with not the exact perfect family life that everybody else has. The pop out did something for us. Kendrick brought us together. Last year was Act 1. I would love to see this lyrical battle. This TikTok crash out slang is not the right one. Even from the New York area, and knowing that Joey Badass is an ill lyricist. Like, if you go back, he is a good lyricist. I'm for real. I don't necessarily like have Joey in my playlist, but I'm just gonna be honest. He's a good lyricist. But calling it the TikTok crash out slang, I agree. The ruler's back was like, the bars were like, what were they? Next line, the West Coast, the best coast. Now get the F out my face. Almost he wants to say, they ain't got it like us. We whooping feet and applying pressure. Point is that we've been at their neck. This is, again, fierce lines that are crossing the line. Like I said, rightfully so, but crossing the line. Saying the West Coast is the best coast, added this to a New York artist who's trying to rep New York. Y'all, if y'all don't say nothing back, bro, we done. We're done for the next 10 years. But there needs to be a response. On wax, these are ill lines. We raise Pop, Dre, Nip. Beautiful. Beautiful putting them together. Nice way. Y'all talk reckless. That's a death wish signed in blood. We baptize Goofy. Nice bar. Strong bar. Fierce. Next line. Peasants don't contest gods. Woo! That shit that we can't let fly. On the dead, homies will turn them all to some dead guys. Y'all, I don't know if we hearing this right. I want this to stay lyrical. Man, F being buddy with dudes dissing in public, but see us in private and try to act like distant cousins. I like that. Like you crashing out publicly, but you on Soul's album. Maybe Joey didn't mean it that way, and that's the problem. But I think anyone took it that way. Like you can't know Joey Badass if you were to do that. You know how people are gonna take it. You can't say this is light work after the whole run Kendrick's on, after the strangling the GOAT Drake, you know, bringing him down. You know if you step in right now with West Coast shining, that is gonna mean something. Plus, you know, it feels like a bunch of hating. So he goes, next line, when y'all had y'all 10 minutes of fame, we ain't saying nothing. Now, Ray Vaughn, I bet I disagree on this one, but I get it. I get his sentiments. New York's not it right now. But the run that New York had was significant. But that's cool. You know what I mean? They can take a shot. Like, he gets this shot off right now. Next line, just go and make hits that you not making without hating. He has a right point. Go and make the hits. You want to say you're the shit? Go make the hit, but that you're not making. That the hit is not gonna become a hit. And the hit that Joey Badass' last album was 2022 with an intro from Diddy on that album. Don't get me wrong, old Joey Badass is fire, but now you come in 3 years later trying to step in and make little remarks about West Coast. Like that's your first song that's coming out. Like no, you know what I mean? Not that was his first song, Rulers Back, but like just random. Like that's the only thing that gets you active. Next line, if you don't like the way we pop it, then stop picking up our slang. At least the homie was direct when he was mentioning y'all names. That's how you really crash out, and it's a part of our heritage. Now, my thing with this is, I don't want to see New York get lumped in with Drake, y'all. Like, nah, like Drake's from Canada. Like, we ain't got nothing to do with that. Kendrick was being direct. I definitely give him that. 100% Kendrick was being direct. And we ride it for Kendrick 100%. No matter where you from New York, from wherever. Kendrick, he was mentioning Drake. Like, he wasn't talking about New York artists. But I think what he means is like Kendrick was being direct. You want to come at us? Be direct. Because we really crash out and it's part of our and I get that. I get those sentiments. I mean, from being from the East, I've seen it. And growing up on NWA, Ice Cube, Ice-T, the Lynch Mob, obviously Tupac, DJ Quick, like all this stuff from the West Coast. Like even as a youngin', from the East, I loved it. I loved the West Coast sound and what it brought to hip hop. All right, next line. I felt compelled to speak up since y'all been looking for charity. Now y'all doing what y'all gonna do, but just don't speak on my area. It does feel like New York is looking for charity, especially with the pants that Joey Badass had on, especially with the rural home, like not even standing in Brooklyn and just trying to come in a time where nobody's really trying to pay that no mind. Daylyt, I think, had the better, more complex lyrics. I think Ray Vaughn, but I think people underestimate the shots that Daylyt took in the video from imagery wise. Ray Vaughn was more of like, you know what I mean? The bulldog in your face, and the voice was a little louder. Joey Badass, his line, it fell apart. So in the end, we need to see this go to round 2.